Hello everyone and welcome back to the CDL podcast channel. As you can see by the screen, this episode is going to be I believe it's Toronto home series predictions. The first series here of stage 2, not that it really matters much what the home series is because we are still currently playing online, unfortunately, but I'm going to give my predictions for this one. Obviously not a ton of matches because it's just some of the regular season ones leading up to the seeding for that stage 2 major. Looking like, as of right now, unless the meta shift happens, Atlanta might repeat because they're so dominant. But before we get into the predictions, there's just like a couple pieces of news, like the whole map pool changes and stuff I wanted to get into. And then a couple other things about the channel. I just had some questions to ask. But yeah, so without further ado, we'll just hop into some of that little bit of news and then talk about the channel a little bit and then get on to predictions. Probably going to be a little bit of a shorter one today. The prediction episodes usually end up being a bit shorter just because there's not as much news or power rankings or reactions and stuff to talk about. Just more giving predictions and stuff like that. But first, there's obviously the map pool change for the CDL. It hasn't gone into league play yet. I'm hoping it goes into league play soon because I've really been on the league play grind a little bit lately. I enjoy playing this game a lot. It's just unfortunate we don't have a good system for the ranked play. No really real reason to grind. I mean, I'm a little busy with college and everything, so I get on, I maybe get 2,000, 3,000 ladder points, and some dude in my ladder's got 6,000 points, so I have no chance to ever get a first place, really. But I'm hoping those go into league play soon because, I mean, it'd be nice if we were playing the same maps that they're playing in the CDL. But if you didn't see the changes, they happened, I think, a few days ago. They announced them, maybe 2-3 days ago. It is Apocalypse Hardpoint, which is one of the DLC maps, I believe, that came in Season 2. Maybe it came in Season 1, I'm not sure. I don't really play pubs much. I'm pretty much only a league play player. But Apocalypse Hardpoint is in for Crossroads Hardpoint. And then Express S&D is in for Garrison S&D. The Apocalypse one, I'm not all that sure how I feel about it. I mean, Crossroads Hardpoint, I didn't actually hate it. I mean, I know a lot of people say the spawns are kind of wacky, and that new P4 does kind of suck. It's like impossible to hold it because of how like just scrappy it is. So I understand the change. I understand the pros didn't like it. I'm okay with it. I honestly have to say I don't really know how well Apocalypse played. I know like the first day when I saw OpTic said they were scrimming it because they were thinking about putting it in. I watched a couple maps, but I maybe watched like a map and a half, 2 maps, so I didn't get like a whole lot of information on it. But from what I've heard, Apocalypse Hardpoint is really good. It plays really well, so I'm excited for that. If that's truly the case, if it plays as well as people are saying it is, I think it'd be an improvement over Crossroads. Personally, I wish it would have been in for Checkmate. I don't really like Checkmate Hardpoint. I hate that hill. I think it's P3 under the plane. Is like there's like 17 angles you have to watch. Like I'm playing Modern Warfare again. I get PTSD flashbacks. But yeah, I mean, it's not the worst. Crossroads Hardpoint definitely wasn't like the best map ever, so it's nice to see that. I hope we get like Standoff in the game in Season 3 or maybe towards the end of the season or something so we can replace Checkmate with it. Then you can probably put Standoff Search in for one of the other maps. Then the other map that went in is Express S&D, and most of you probably know about it unless you're a newer fan to competitive COD. Express S&D was played in the BO2 circuit, one of the greatest competitive games of all time, and it's a good map. Unfortunately for me, I wish it would have replaced a different map. I know that's kind of a controversial opinion. Garrison is not a good search map. Don't get me wrong. Garrison is not a good search map. It should probably not have been in a rotation because you literally can't attack the bomb site. I think I heard like a crazy stat on like the A bomb site. I'm pretty sure there's only been one plant all year in the CDL, and I'm pretty sure that was off like a late rotation where it was like a 2v2 or something, and they had an opening to the A site, and there was like a late rotation, like I said, and then they planted it there. So Garrison search is definitely not good. But I don't know, I just hate Checkmate Search more. I know like the pros seem to play it a lot, so they must like it. But just in my opinion, I mean, that's not like I'm not saying it 100% had to be, but just my personal opinion. I enjoyed playing Garrison more than Checkmate and Miami. I know people like Miami, but to me, Miami's just too random. There's way too many angles to watch, and it's just like, so many times I feel like when I lose the map or get killed or something, it's because there was 7 angles I had to check, and I only checked 5 of them, and he came from one of those 2. And it's like, I don't know. To me, Miami Search should have been taken out, or Checkmate Search. Personally think Checkmate Search should have been the first one taken out because that plain bomb site is like the only thing you can attack, and it's just kind of a dumb fight every time, I swear. But Express S&D is in for Garrison. Garrison is obviously not a good search map. Express is a lot better, so excited to see that. And I'm not too sure. I can't like comment and say Apocalypse is 100% better than Crossroads because I haven't played it and I haven't really watched it much, but everybody's saying it is, so I'm assuming I'm going to trust the pros. If they're all saying it's better, it's probably better. But I hope those get put in league play soon. And then the other piece of like not news but something I want to talk about is recently I've been getting into, well, not recently, probably about like the last 5 months. When I was younger, I used to always collect Pokemon cards and like mostly football cards, some basketball, not really baseball. But over the last, I'd say 4 or 5 months, I've kind of been getting into just like opening the Pokemon cards and like opening football and basketball cards and stuff again. And I've kind of been opening them, keeping some for my personal collection, flipping some of the cards, and kind of like building like a base to buy them with. And it's just something I've enjoyed doing. So I was wondering if we were to hit the channel, and I know it's obviously only a COD podcast channel. I was wondering if that'd be something any of you guys would be interested in watching. So leave a comment down below if you'd be interested in watching. If I was able to get like a good setup for it, if you'd be interested in watching like Pokemon card openings or football card openings, possibly basketball, probably not as likely, but more football and Pokemon, or if I could start a second channel or something for that, where I'd open up those cards, I'd be thinking about doing that as well, but it's harder to build up a new channel, obviously, as all of you guys know. But that was one thing I was thinking about. I don't know if I want to put it on this channel, because this channel is pretty obviously branded around COD, so it'd be kind of weird to throw like football card openings on here, because I mean obviously that doesn't really fit with the whole COD brand, and Pokemon's closer because it's somewhat tied to gaming and everything. But yeah, leave a comment if you would like to watch those videos, if you're interested in that at all. You can DM me on Twitter too if you have any thoughts on it too, because I love talking about the hobby. I mean, I have like a cousin that really helped get me back into it, and a couple friends that helped me get back into it with the whole boom that's going on, and I just really enjoy opening them. And I don't know, it's kind of like a little business. It's kind of fun to run. So if you're interested in seeing openings like that, let me know, comment down below, or DM me on Twitter or something. I'd think about starting a new channel so I could kind of keep them separate, or I would think about just having a separate playlist on this channel. But yeah, let me know. And I think that's about it for the news I want to talk about. So I'm just going to get right into the predictions. Now, obviously, I don't feel as confident. I seem to say this a lot, but this week I especially feel less confident because obviously there's a meta shift. XM4 is no longer being used. I don't really even know what AR is going to be used, because teams have been experimenting with the QBZ as well as the Krig. I thought initially when the XM4 was G8, it would just instantly switch to like a Krig and 74U meta, and then maybe they G8 the 74U and be like Krig MP5 or something, but it seems as though people are really liking the QBZ and they may use it over a Krig. I don't know if it's going to be like Krig QBZ 274Us, or if it's going to be like one QBZ 374Us or what. But then also the 74U has like the muzzles taken off and the mags taken off. You can't use as many attachments on it, so that gun should possibly be worse. So it's a lot tougher to predict, because we saw where all the teams were. We finally had an idea, and then the whole meta just shifted, and we're kind of left wondering what each team is going to look like. But still, I'm probably going to base most of my predictions off where we last saw teams. Like essentially, like if this team was super good in the last meta, I'm assuming they're not going to get a lot worse, or maybe there are some teams I think are going to get a little better based off the last meta. But we also have a couple roster changes. We'll get to those matches when we get there. Toronto and London Royal Ravens both made a little bit of roster change. The Toronto one we already know about, but the London one is more recent. But yeah, we'll get into the matches right away. Start of stage 2. My stage 1 predictions didn't go all that well. I guess when I made the video on, they're not up here anymore, but when I made the video on stage 1 predictions for the major, I forgot to hit submit or save predictions, so I got 0 points for that. So that's unfortunate, because I forgot to save them, so obviously all my matches just said they were blank. I don't think I did all that well on it anyways, but we'll see if we can do better on this, randomly predicting this new meta. So the first match is Faze Subliners, and that's a tough one to predict right away, because obviously Faze is the best team in the game right now. Until we see them perform worse, they are the best team in the game, undoubtedly. And Subliners, I mean, they finished 3rd at the last major. They look extremely good. I personally think this meta shift may hurt them, though, because, I mean, Asim and Mac were playing very well in the subs, especially Asim. He was probably having, I mean, the best stretch of his career, short career so far, but that's probably the best stretch we've seen in his career in that major. And Mac started to kind of pick it up after a slower start to the year. And Diamond Khan looked like arguably the best player on their team. He looked amazing, but the issue is that was with the XM4. I'm not saying I don't think Diamond Khan's going to be really good. I think he's an excellent player. I think he's got a ton of talent. I think he's definitely going to have a future in the league. But, I mean, I know I shouldn't say I know. I'm pretty sure that last year he was a main AR on his Challengers team, so now he's obviously not the main on this team with Clay there. But I think he prefers an AR for sure, and now if it switches to like a 1 Krig 374U meta, I don't know how well it's going to fit them. I think this meta shift might hurt New York a bit. I still think they'll definitely be a good team and be able to win a lot of matches, but I think this meta shift may hurt them a bit. And then they obviously have a very tough week. If you see Faze here on the left, they play, and then they play LA Thieves. They might go 0-2 this week. Not even because I think they're going to get a lot worse, but they're playing 2 very good teams. Those are 2 losable matches very easily. And I think I'm going to go Faze in this one. I think Faze is going to win 3-1. I would say this would be a 3-2 series normally, but with the meta shift, I do think they're going to get a little worse, and I think it's so unfortunate for Diamondcon because I feel like with the way Asim's played it with the sub and everything, he's almost on. You can't really sub him out until he starts to play worse. And Diamondcon is on the AR. Max, kind of like their guy. He played with him last year. He's like one of their franchise players. I feel like they're not going to sub him out unless he's playing horrible as well. And then Clay obviously isn't getting subbed out. And then the Hydra's here now in America, and if Diamondcon doesn't adjust well because he has to use the sub or something in this next meta, it's going to be unfortunate for him after playing so well just because of a meta shift into GA. He may get benched for Hydra. But that, I mean, we don't want to get too ahead of ourselves. He might be amazing on this meta. You never know. My prediction, though, is if he has to use a sub, they might get slightly worse, but I still think they're definitely going to be competitive. It's just they have an unfortunate draw this week with Faze and LA Thieves, and I think Faze, I mean, the meta shift might slightly hurt them a little bit, but I definitely think Celium can use a sub if he has to. And I don't think there's a single change GA meta shift to any sub that won't make Abeezy and Simp the best sub duo in the game. So I think they're going to be just fine. Then the next match on Thursday, we've got Florida Mutineers versus Seattle Surge. This one I think is relatively easy to predict as well. I think I'm going to go with another 3-1, and I think it's going to be a 3-1 in favor of the Florida Mutineers. The Surge, this meta shift is weird to me because I feel like it can help and hurt them. I think Octane's going to be roughly the same. I think he'll be fine with whatever AR he has. But I feel like this meta shift could hurt Gunless in a way because Gunless has always been, one of the best flexes in the world. But I think on the flex, he prefers the AR more, it has always seemed like, more than a sub. And if the XM4 obviously was such a good gun, I don't know if they're going to use the QBZ as a flex or if he's going to have to use more of a 74U. I think he'll be good on either. But I think it could also help Prestinni and Looney a little bit with the really good XM4 AR out. That should maybe make the 74U's job even a little easier. And I saw a thing like, I knew Prestinni was struggling. I didn't realize how bad he was struggling. I think I heard it on a podcast or something. I can't remember where exactly I heard it, but he had like the worst hardpoint KD in the league and like one of the worst control KDs. He's just really struggling. His first blood percentage too. He's always the guy that goes for the first blood, and it is not good right now. I'm fairly certain. So yeah, Seattle is just really struggling. I think this meta shift could help them a little bit, but I think Florida is also on the uptick. I think Skies is starting to figure it out. I think Slack is maybe starting to figure it out. And I saw somebody comment, I was watching like Salvation's Elite video, and I saw somebody comment like, man, I miss Pharaoh. Like, what a tragedy. And like, could you imagine if he was on this team instead of Slack? And I saw that and I was like, oh my God. I mean, if that tragedy went to happen with Pharaoh, unfortunate as it is, can you imagine him on this team instead of Slacked? Skies picks it up and is like the normal Skies, and then Awakening is, arguably the best player in the game right now with how good he'd be on like a flex. And then if your subs were Neptune in front and then Pharaoh kind of cleaning up, this team might be the best team in the league. They'd be right up there with the top 4 teams, and like they'd be right up there with FaZe competing slaying wise. Because I promise you, Pharaoh would be a much better slayer than Slacked would be, because Pharaoh's just a more talented player than Slacked is. But obviously, so unfortunate what happened to him, but I saw that comment and I was like, I couldn't help but think like, yeah, wow, how good would this team be? But still, I think regardless, they're still a very good team, and I think they're on the uptick, so I think they're going to win 3-1 versus Seattle. Then going into Friday, tough batch of matches to predict here. Honestly, I feel like every match this week is pretty tough because it's a lot of like really good teams. The Surge Florida one might be one of the easier ones, but it's a lot of good teams like Faze versus Subliners. LA Thieves versus a Honeymoon Period Ultra, like Paris and Minnesota are both kind of on the same level. OpTic Paris should be a little easier, but like Florida, Minnesota are kind of on the same level, and like Faze Ultra, Ultra's got that honeymoon upset potential, and like Thieves Subliners, a lot of tough matches. But this Thieves Ultra match feels like a trap match to me because I feel like Ultra's got a new roster. They've been struggling all year. Thieves have looked very good. They're coming off kind of a poor performance at the major, probably want to bounce back. So you would think like, oh, it's an easy Thieves pick, new roster for Ultra, but at the same time, there's always that honeymoon period factor. The Ultra are a new roster. Obviously, I wish they would have kept Methods. He's like one of my favorite players. You all know that. But I don't think Insight is a bad player by any means. I just wish that they would have gone about it a different way and given Methods a little more time or something if they truly wanted to bench him. But I think they had this in their head from the second they picked up Insight that they wanted to bench Methods eventually for whatever reason. But it seems like I really want to pick Toronto in this matchup because like whenever new teams form, they always just seem to get a win right away and like have a honeymoon period. Even if they're not going to be a good team, they seem to start out at least okay. So I really want to pick the Ultra to win this one, but I think I'm going to go with LA Thieves. But I think it is going to be a tight match. I'm going to go 3-2 on this one. And the reason I'm going 3-2, like I said, is because I think that honeymoon period is going to come in and play a big factor for Ultra. I think they have a very good chance to win this, probably a better chance than most people think. I wanted to pick them to win this because I for sure think they're going to lose their second match. But I have to go 3-2 just for a safer pick because LA Thieves definitely is the better team right now. But I just feel like that the Ultra have that X factor of honeymoon period. Like I said, I think Insight's going to be a good player. I think he's going to want to prove to people that he deserves to be in there over methods. But no Zinni, no Winnie, as you've all seen on Twitter. So out of principle, I just got to pick them to lose because I kind of want them to lose, to be honest. I'm not a huge fan of the whole methods thing, and I've always kind of liked 100 Thieves like LA Thieves. So I feel like this is a toss-up match, so I'm going to go and stand at solidarity with Zinni and pick Ultra to lose. Then in the next match, we got Paris, Minnesota. This is a tough one because, I mean, recently Paris has definitely been the better team and looked better, especially with Minnesota losing their first match in the Stage 1 Major. But I feel like the meta shift benefits Minnesota. I mean, if there's a more established main AR with the QBZ or Krieg and less of a flex role, I feel like that benefits accuracy because he can then maybe slow down, and like when he was at his best, we saw him in World War II, a very slow main AR with the STG or the bar, whatever it may be, even the FG, although Chino was really using the FG and that meta at that time on their team. But when it was a slower main AR, accuracy has always been at his best, it seems like. And then with no like middle flex gun, I feel like if like the QBZ is used as a flex, like I feel like Major Maniac could be very good with that, but like with no middle gun and it more being sub-heavy play, I feel like Priesta and Attach can maybe find their footing and be a lot better. I mean, Attach has been pretty good this year, but accuracy and Priesta for sure, and even a little bit of Major Maniac have all been struggling. I feel like maybe they can find their footing a little bit in this meta. But with that said, I think Paris is going to get this win, and I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be a 3-2. It hurts me to say because you've all know, I mean, I'm from Wisconsin, kind of that area. Minnesota is kind of like the closest team to home. I went to that first Minnesota home series event, like the CDL kickoff in January of the first season. Kind of have a soft spot for Minnesota, but I don't know. There's just something about this team. Like, there's also something about Paris for me. I don't know. I just really like Paris's team. I just feel like they have so much potential. I feel like Classic, Scraps, and Aqua are all awesome at this game, and I feel like Fire is only getting better. So there's just something about Paris to me that I just want to pick them all the time. I just have a lot of confidence in their team. I feel like they're like a constant dark horse in my mind. And Minnesota, I think, just needs a little more time to figure it out. I think they will figure it out. I mean, I might pick them to lose 2 matches here this week, which would be tragic for them. But they got kind of a tough draw in their matches. They play 2 solid teams, not great teams, but solid teams. But I'm going to pick Paris 3-2. I just like the potential. I like what we saw out of Fire in the Major. I know they lost their first match, but Fire looked very much improved. And to me, he's been the weak link on this team in Stage 1. I feel like everybody else, I mean, Aqua played out of his mind. Scraps played very, very well. And even Classic was playing really well. I just feel like Fire was super inconsistent. And I feel like if he picks it up like we saw him doing in that one series in the Major, I think this team has a lot of potential to beat almost anyone they play. And then speaking of Paris, going into the next match, they're playing OpTic. I just talk highly on them, but I don't think it's enough to beat OpTic. I think OpTic's probably a little pissed after their performance at the Major, dominating New York in that first round, and then when they played them in the losers bracket, they got dominated. I think OpTic's going to come out hot. I kind of want to pick a 3-0 here because, I mean, I've picked a 3-1, a 3-1, and then 2 3-2s, and there's always some 3-0s on the weekend. There's definitely going to be some. So I do want to pick one here, but I think I'm going to go 3-1 because I do respect Paris a lot. I mean, generally you would think when you have a team like OpTic, Dallas, Faze playing Paris like in the beginning of the year, you would have thought, I mean, that's easy to predict. 3-0, boom, done. But I actually think Paris has a chance to win this series. I think OpTic could come out kind of, they 3-0'd them like in their like first match of the year. OpTic 3-0'd Paris. So like I think OpTic could overlook them. They have a tendency to do that with their when they play teams that are like a little bit lower in the tiers, and they may still view Paris as like a lower tier team since they 3-0'd them. But I think Paris certainly has a chance to upset. I mean, if they come out and punch OpTic in the mouth in that first hard point, Paris is a solid search team. They could win that search. If they're up 2-0, you never know. They could steal that one of those last 3 maps and get the win. So I wouldn't be shocked if Paris wins it, but I am going to go OpTic. They are the more talented team, and I think they're a little pissed off. And from what I've heard, they've been looking a lot better after the Major. This meta shift has been pretty good for them. So I do think they're going to win it 3-1 in their only match of the week. I think that's important for them as well. Only playing 1 match. It's big for any of those teams that are only playing 1 match. It's very big to get a win in it, so you don't just sit there at 0-1 and have no chance to redeem yourself. And then the next match, another one of the harder ones to predict, Florida versus Minnesota. I do think Florida is certainly on the uptick. I think Minnesota might get better in this meta. I think with the slow start Minnesota had, in the stage 1, and they were able to fall into losers bracket, unfortunately, despite I think they were 3-2 and they still fell into losers bracket. I think they're going to get the win here, though. I think I'm going to go with a 3-2 for Minnesota. And the reason I say 3-2 here is because I do think Florida is probably the better team. But as we know in Call of Duty, the better team doesn't win every match. I would think you can make an argument that Minnesota might be the better team than Paris, and I have them losing that match as well. But the better team does not always win, that's for sure. And I think that Minnesota is good enough. I think these teams are relatively even. I think Florida is certainly better in hardpoint, but they've also choked a lot of hardpoints they shouldn't have done. I think they're relatively even in control. I think they're both only okay, average at best at control. And then I do think Minnesota is the better search team. I think Minnesota might be the second or third best search team in the game. They're certainly behind Faze, but they're up there in better search teams in the game. And Florida is okay at search, nothing like crazy. I mean, Owakening is nuts at search. But if it wasn't for Owakening, they'd probably be pretty bad at search because he carries. But I think Minnesota's going to get this win 3-2. I don't think they're going to fall to 0-2 in the week. I think Florida will come in 1-0, Minnesota will come in 0-1, and it's a big win for Minnesota to not fall to 0-2 in their group, with Florida going to 2-0. So I do think Minnesota's going to win this one. I think it could be even better than a 3-2 for Minnesota if they're able to, with Florida's chokes that they've had in hardpoint and their woes in hardpoint. I do think if Minnesota is able to come out, win a map 1 hardpoint or something, or win the map 4 hardpoint if it gets there, they could win the series like 3-1 or something. I do think Florida will for sure get a map, though, and I certainly think Florida could win this series. But like I said, in this new meta, there's so many toss-up matchups. But one matchup that's not a toss-up is this next one, this double points one. I think this one's pretty self-explanatory. I think I'm going 3-0 Dallas Empire. Finally get to pick a 3-0 here. And I think the reason I go Dallas Empire here is because, I mean, they're clearly the better team. Surge looked pretty horrible in the stage 1 new meta, obviously, like I've said a bunch of times. And I do think Surge could improve off of it. But I still think they need a roster change and to add a better sub player into their team. And I mean, that may look like a trade. You could look at another team with Surge. Like Prestinni certainly deserves to be a starter. I feel like he just doesn't fit in this team. I feel like their pacing, Octane's a little slower, and Gunless is like a little bit slower, and Looney's a little slower, and then Prestinni just wants to fly. I feel like if they could maybe trade for like a slower, more methodical sub, I'm not exactly sure. I haven't thought about it too much. On what team he would fit well into, but like if there's a team that needs a faster sub to increase their pace, and Seattle wants to slow it down, that would be a pretty decent trade to work out, I feel like. But obviously, I mean, that's a topic for a different video, and I'd have actually time to go through the teams. I mean, the first people that come to mind are like LA Thieves for like somebody slower like Temp, but I don't think that trade would ever happen. I don't think that's all that even of a trade at this point, because Temp's been playing okay. Although we've heard rumors of maybe like Venom from Wester subbing in for him. But yeah, on this one, I'm going Dallas Empire 3-0. I feel like it's pretty easy to predict. Maybe Seattle can take the Search, because they've looked okay in Search, and Dallas hasn't looked all that great in Search. So maybe Seattle takes like the Search or something. Only way Seattle has a chance in the series, like I said, is if they come out really hot and like not even win the first hardpoint, but smoke them like by 100 points on that first hardpoint, and then like they're hyped up and they like take the Search or something and get up 2-0. Kind of like London did against Dallas. I can't remember if they got up 2-0, but London took them to a Game 5 in that stage. And like, obviously, London has no business being in a Game 5 with Dallas, because Dallas is a lot better. But I mean, that's the only chance that Seattle have. But I do believe a 3-0 is probably going to happen for Dallas in this one. And I got to pick some 3-0s because they're bound to happen at some point. They always do. Then moving into Sunday, we've got LAG versus London. This is another really weird one to predict for me, because I was just talking to some people on Twitter and stuff, and like in the YouTube comments of the last video, like LAG is by no means a bad team, but they're one of those teams that like you just don't really want to pick them in any matchup, because like they can lose any matchup. They could lose to the worst team at any time, but they could also beat the best team at any time. Like we saw them play LA Thieves, who we think they're certainly worse than, and then they 3-0'd them in the major, and you would think like they should probably lose that match. And if they play LA Thieves, I'm probably going to pick them to lose every time. But if they play like, who would we even consider the worst team? Like if we consider like Surge the worst team, or London, who they're playing, the worst team, like I don't even feel that confident picking them to win, because I certainly think they could lose. And London just made a roster change. Zero still isn't in, unfortunately, but they dropped Parasite and they picked up Paul X from, I believe he's on Wester, like everybody's saying, one of the best AMs. And I think then they're keeping Zed in for Alex. I think Alex is still dealing with whatever family issues is going on with him and stuff. So hopefully that gets resolved soon and fixed, or whatever needs to happen with that. I'm not exactly sure what's going on. So I believe that their rosters, they got Shawnee on the main, and then who's left? They got Zed and Dylan, I believe, would be on the subs, and then I don't know much about Paul X, but I'm assuming with Zed and Dylan, who are very much true fast-paced subs, I think Paul X would be their flex. I'm not really sure, but I really want to pick London in this one because I think Zed and Dylan fit together very well. They played very well together on Reciprocity. I think they're both very fast-paced and kind of match each other. And I think Zed can go in first, which allows Dylan to maybe be unlocked with his potential more. He's been really underwhelming this year, really disappointing, especially with the last time we saw him in a Treyarch title. Obviously, Black Ops 4, he was one of the best players in the game. So like, I feel like Zed can maybe unlock Dylan a little bit more because when Dylan was at his best, Zed was his teammate. So hopefully him sliding in first can help Dylan just be able to slay more and not have to worry so much about like the objective. And then Paul X, if he's as good as everybody says he is, should be able to fry. And then Shawnee, I mean, you all know I'm not that confident in Shawnee. I really feel like he should be the flex and let Zero be on the main because Zero is just maybe the best European main AR. I mean, you could throw Tommy in there when he used to main a little bit. But I don't know. There's something about this matchup that's telling me to pick the Ravens because it's like a pride thing at this point. You've got to get your first win at some point. I think Paul X has an X factor to him, no pun intended, because everybody says he's so crazy talented. To me, LAG doesn't have that crazy talented player, so if Paul X can come in and just take over a map, I actually think I'm going to go London on this one. I got to pick some upsets to make my bracket different. I think I'm going to go 3-2 London. Obviously, this could be completely wrong. I could see LAG just 3-0ing them because LAG is certainly the safer pick, but sometimes you got to go with bolder picks. And I do think London with Paul X has a chance. I think Zed and Dylan fit together very well. I'm not saying that these players are better than the players they replaced. I don't think Zed is a better player than Alex, but I do think Zed maybe fits a little better than Dylan. I certainly think Alex is the better player, but I feel like maybe if this team had like Zero and then like Alex could play like a flex, and then they could have Dylan and Zed on the subs. I feel like their pacing might be a little bit better because Alex could play like a faster flex role, and then Dylan and Alex could play fast sub roles, and Zero can kind of speed it up on the AR, but also play it a little slower to kind of like fit with the pace. He can do either. He's like one of the most versatile players of all time, NA, EU, whatever. He's one of the most versatile players. So I don't know. I just feel like there's something about this London team with Paul X. They're going to come out and it's like a pride thing. They want to win a match. It's embarrassing to not have a match won. Obviously, at this point, they're probably pissed off about it. So I think they're going to come out, and I think they're going to 3-2 LAG. Once again, this could be a 3-0 LAG. I have no idea. But you got to go with some bold predictions, some kind of out there picks. And London's got to win a match at some point, you'd think. So I think they're going to do it in this one. Then in the next match, we got Faze Ultra. We got to pick some 3-0, so let's go ahead and chalk this one as a 3-0. No Zinni, no Winnie. I do certainly think Toronto could make this competitive, take a map or two, but they were unable to beat Faze with methods, so I don't think they're able to beat them with insight. Although, I will say, I don't like completely write them off. Faze probably, just like I said, London has to win at some point. Faze does have to lose at some point. I would think they'd have to finally lose a series. I could be in that first series against New York. New York is certainly capable of beating Faze, but I don't think Ultra is yet. Like I said, the only X factor that gives the Ultra a chance to win a map or two, or maybe even somehow the series, is if this meta shift somehow hurts Faze, kind of dumbs them down to the level of the competition, and if the honeymoon period with Insight somehow kind of levels up Ultra, they can maybe win a couple maps or even the series, but 3-0 Faze seems like the safe pick, and that's what I'm going with. And then in the last matchup, it's a tough one to predict because it's Thieves Subliners. Earlier in the weekend, I went with Faze over Subliners. So I have Subliners at 0-1 coming into this point, and I went with Thieves over Ultra. So Thieves is 1-0. We've seen Subliners, I believe, in their last matchup, I'm fairly certain they beat LA Thieves. I can't remember for sure, but I'm pretty sure that Subliners beat them in their last matchup. I can't remember. Sorry about that. But regardless, I feel like Subliners over the last few weeks, especially in the major, obviously they were a better team than LA Thieves. They looked a lot better. But like I said, I think they might be one of the teams most hurt by the meta shift. Regardless, I still think, though, that Subliners, I don't think they're going to come in and go 0-2, although if they do go 0-2 in this and they don't look good, like let's say they get beat pretty handily by Faze and then beat pretty handily by Thieves, I do think that's when it's time that they might start to think about subbing in Hydra. But yeah, I'm gonna go with Subliners in this one, and I think this will be a 3-2 fashion. I mean, in terms of the match for this weekend, this might be the one I feel the least confident in because, like I said, I'm mostly picking Subliners because I don't think that they'll allow themselves to fall to 0-2, but I certainly could see LA Thieves winning this. Meta shift hurts New York more than any other team, almost, in my opinion, because I think it really hurts DiamondCon. Unless, obviously, the QBZ is able to be a very good flex gun, then I think they'll be just fine. But I don't think New York is going to fall to 0-2 on the week. I just don't think Clay will let it happen. Although, if they do, it might get real interesting because it might be Hydra time. And I'm excited to see him with the way everybody talks about him. Even some of you guys comment down below. I admit, I'm like, I don't know a ton about Hydra. I don't know, obviously, he's got to be super talented. If Clay thinks he's one of the most talented players he's ever seen, and Clay's had some talented young players. And all these people talk about him, and all the European people talk about him like he's crazy. Obviously, he's got to be something special. Even you guys tell me in the comments, he's special. So I'm excited to see him at some point. Now, obviously, I don't want Diamond or anybody to be benched because everybody in New York deserves a starting spot with the way they've played. But it could get interesting if New York goes 0-2, and I don't think they're going to, though. I think they'll be able to get this win. Wouldn't be shocked on this one if LA Thieves wins it. This is one of the most toss-up matches of the weekend to me. Certainly the most toss-up matchup of that Sunday. I think it's a really good one, though. I'm interested. I find it very interesting that OpTic only plays one match and they put him on the first match on Saturday, kind of earlier in the day, because usually, obviously, Paris isn't a bad team either, so I'm surprised that the Surge Empire match wasn't the first one, since that's probably going to be a 3-0. I'm surprised they didn't put OpTic and Paris in the primetime matchup, because obviously OpTic gets the most viewers, so I figured they'd throw them in a time where they could get more viewers on it. But that's what my bracket's looking like. You got a 3-1 Faze over Subliners, 3-1 Mutineers over Surge, 3-2 Thieves over Ultra, 3-2 Paris over Rocker, and the 3-1 OpTic over Paris, 3-2 Minnesota over Florida, 3-0 Empire over Surge, 3-2 London over Gorillas, who knows about that one, then the 3-0 Faze over Ultra, and a 3-2 Subliners over the LA Thieves. One more quick note. I know right before I saw this, or right before I started recording this podcast, I saw on Twitter that Maven, I believe, lost a childhood best friend that he's known since he was super young. So obviously, thoughts and prayers go out to Maven. I don't think he's going to be casting this weekend for obvious reasons. He's got to deal with that and grieving that loss and stuff. So shout out to Maven. I hope everything gets a little better. I know that's obviously a super tough thing. I kind of had something similar happen to me when I was pretty young with one of my friends. It's not something easy to go through at all. Obviously, it's horrible. But I think I believe I saw he was going out to visit his friend's family and stuff, so that's really cool to see. I hope they can all get through this. It's a really tough time. So thoughts and prayers out to Maven. Go send him some love on Twitter or something. If you see that, obviously it's something super tough to go through. So hopefully he takes his time. Absolutely no rush. He should not be rushing to get back to the CDL. If he needs time, he should take it. We can get on without Maven for a few weeks or however much time he needs. So obviously thoughts and prayers go out to Maven. It's a horrible, horrible thing. Wouldn't wish that on anyone. So, yep. Just go send some love to Maven if you can on Twitter. But that is going to do it for this video, I believe. Comment down below, like I said, about the whole, the hobby, the card openings. If you'd be interested in maybe making a second channel for that, or if I should post it on here and stuff, if you're interested in that. And then comment down below your thoughts on the upcoming weekend, the meta shifts, the map changes, everything. And be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. We're on the road to 300 now. I think that's going to do it for this video. I think I talked about everything I want. Usually after these videos, about 10 seconds after I hit stop recording, I think about something else that I want to talk about, but my mind just gets going a mile a minute here, and I usually forget to talk about something. But yeah, that's going to do it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed. I really enjoy doing these prediction videos. They're fun to just kind of get my thoughts out there. Even though I might get only one match right or something with this crazy new meta and maps and everything, we don't even know what the heck's going on, but kind of fun to get my thoughts out there and see some of your guys' thoughts. So comment those down below, what you think. Like I said, leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new. That's going to do it for this one. This has been Ryan with the CDL Podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed. Have a great day, everyone. Have fun watching the matches this weekend. I'll see you probably Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, sometime next week with reactions to the weekend. Thanks for watching, everyone. Have a great day.